Today's video, I'm making Christmas cards. Now, I'm working with new collection from Couture Creations called The Gift of Giving, and I've used one of the 12 by 12 papers, and this is the half that's left, and some of their lovely sort of really deep red card. I don't think the camera really picks up the deepness of it, but it matches with the poinsettias on this paper beautifully. So I've used two 12 by 12 sheets, but I've got half of it left. Okay, so beautiful papers, double-sided. There's a music in the background on this one, in case anyone's curious. It appears to be Jingle Bells. So that's the papers I'm using. I'm also using, from the same collection, a sentiment from the sentiment pack. Now you can see how many there are in here. Just loads and loads of them, and on the back it actually shows you how many are in there, how many of each. Great, it can really make card making quick and easy, and you've got something like that to use for your sentiments. And Christmas cards, you might be making lots, so being able to have quick and easy options is great. So for my cards, as I say, I've actually used half of that sheet to create, and I'm creating two cards because I love hot foiling, but I know not everybody's got that available to them. So I wanted to make two versions of this card, one using hot foiling and one just using inks and die cuts and sentiments from the pack. So let me go through this, and they're both very similar, but one I've got this lovely foiled piece, foiled frame, and I foiled the centrepiece as well, and I will come back to that in a moment. And on the other version, I've gone into my stash and I found the doily die to cut that, and I've used the same die as I have on the other one, but instead of foiling it, I've used some ink to bring out the debossed line around the edge. Let me just zoom in the camera on that. Get it in focus. There we are. So you can see I've got ink around there. Now normally with the cut foiling embossed dies, and I've got the die I used here. So again, I'm going to need to zoom the camera in again. Let's put something behind it. Let's put it on there. That's it, right, so you can see I've got a cutting edge at the outside, and then there's another line, and that's a raised line that actually doesn't cut. It's actually quite rounded. It creates that debossed detail around the edge. Okay, so that's from the Modern Essentials collection of cut, foil and embossed dies, as is the lovely frame I used. But they're two different items from that collection. I will list them in my blog posts for you. They're older collections, but I'm sure they're still around if you want to be able to get hold of them, or you might already have them if you're a foiler. But these cards, it's really important that the pattern from the backing paper actually continues through. So I don't like to waste cards, so that's been die cut and foiled from that before I've stuck it onto the card base, and then my piece of pattern papers had that foiled in the centre of it before I stick this down. Okay, and all the holes will be hidden behind my die cut. Now do make sure, because there's music on this, do make sure you get it the right way up when you actually put your card together, because it's the sort of thing you'll notice afterwards, because it's quite faint and it'll be really annoying at that point. So do just check which way up you're putting your pattern paper. So that one goes like that, and the idea is that the arc of the wreath continues through this centerpiece here. Okay, and for this one, now because I've used a doily and you'll be able to see through it, I had to make sure that this piece, and if I just slot this in here, you'll see that it is a continuous piece. I needed to make sure it came out of the dead centre of the card. And I thought that's going to be really tricky with this inked die to get it in the right place and not smudge ink everywhere. So what I did was I die cut it without inking it. And when I use these with papers, I always add an extra piece of card, whether I'm die cutting or foiling, because it protects the card from being torn as it's being embossed. Or debossed, whichever term you like to use. So when it's actually creating the texture, it protects the paper from tearing. So I die cut it, and then I inked the die and pressed the die cut back into it to pick up the ink. Okay, and that way I could make sure I got it dead centre. So that will go there, but my doily goes in between the two, again dead centre, and that will go on top, and that will go there. Okay, and then to finish it off, I wanted some poinsettia, so I've just used a poinsettia die from my stash. But to make the pattern on the die cut stand out and to give it a bit of pizzazz, I've used these lovely card deco inks that actually have pearlescent elements to them, so that they've actually infused with mica powder. If I zoom in on this, hopefully you can, so it's actually quite shimmery and shiny. So I've used that on over my die cut. So whatever die you're using for your Christmas flowers, that's an option to actually bring out the texture, or just to make your card look like it's pearlescent card. I've used it in the green and in the red. So it's a lovely dark green, actually called Christmas green. There we are. So those are great. Those are from Couture Creations as well. So my cards, I've got, as well as my flowers, which will go probably down there for that one. I've also got sentiment, and this one is from the sentiment pack, and I've already put foam pads on the back. Now I've done everything here raised up on foam pads, but obviously you can make your card flat if you wish. Okay, so let me start putting these together and you can kind of see how it works. So let me start with this one. Again, making sure I've got things the right way up. So let me double check I've got my card with the hinge in the right place, and then I've got my music the right way up, and I need to put some tape on the back of that one. Just bear with me a moment. Now, some of you experienced card makers are thinking we don't really want to be watching Joanne put double-sided tape on the back of her backing paper, but not everyone watching is necessarily experienced at making cards. They might be making their Christmas cards as their first thing they're doing, so there's no harm in showing my technique for getting things stuck down straight. So I prefer to use double-sided tape for anything flat. I think my tape's gone just over the edge there, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start peeling the tape. There's the backing up, and then I can smooth the tape that's gone over the edge back down onto the backing paper, and then it won't cause a problem when I put my card together. Let's zoom out a bit more. Okay, so I've got my tape on the back, so it's 4 pieces. Let's go into each corner, and then I get my card blank, and again to make sure it's the right way up, and I check which way up I am here, and then I start peeling the tape at 2 corners. And if you have trouble with the backing paper, just burnish the tape down so that the tape is well and truly stuck to the card, and then the backing usually comes off more easily. There we go. I burnish it down. And just fold those back, okay? Then turn it over and make sure again that you've got it the right way up, and I've turned it. So there we are. So make sure you're the right way up, and then I can position it, and I've got 2 corners sticky and 2 not, so I can line those up and make sure I'm straight, and then once I'm happy I can press those 2 corners that are sticky down, and then I can pull the tape out. There we are. So that one's down, and then I can put my die cut in place. Now this die cut, it doesn't really matter which way you put it. It's obviously got 2 different ways it could go, but it doesn't matter for this card really which way. So I'm just taking my foam pads off here. I'm going to go that way. Right, and then if I flex this slightly, I can line it up. I've got the same kind of distance everywhere, and then pop it down. So that's that down, and then I've got my centerpiece, which needs to go through there. Now I'm just trying to think which way up it needs to, now I was getting in a muddle with this, so I actually got prepared and I put a T and a B so I know which way up it goes, because once you've got this down it's difficult to remember which way it goes. So that can go down next. So make sure I've got the T at the top. So that's that version done, and obviously the other one is very similar, but I do need to make sure this is central. I'm going to use some wet glue for this one, because if I do touch it down the wrong place I can then move it, and I'm only going to stick it down in the middle. I've already stuck down the backing paper on this one, so whatever doily die you've got in your collection would do for this. I'm going to stick that in the middle, and then again I've already got my foam pads. Now I can see how my pattern matches up on this one. It comes through there. And then I put that exactly over the hole in the backing paper. And then the hole has disappeared. So far so good. And then I've got my sentiment for this one, and say I've used foam pads. I've got an extra foam pad on the bit that sticks out, so that's supported. So I'm going to put that on, and then I'm going to add my flowers. So that's my sentiment on there. And so I've got a poinsettia to come down the bottom here, and I've got lots of foliage to go with it, and I've die cut some from some rose gold card that I have, and some brown from some more Couture Creations cardstock, and I will put the codes for all the cardstock on my blog post, so we can have a variety of that. So let me put some flowers on both my cards, and then I'll come back and show you how I'm getting on. So here we have my two variations on my card. So I've stuck my poinsettia in place with lots of these kind of berry sprigs, and they're another Couture Creations die. They're from a collection they brought out over 2 years ago now, Le Petit Jardin. It's the evening branch die, and it's just a little die, one of their mini dies, but it's so useful. It can look like almost anything, but you know, depending on the colour scheme you've used. So I've used that with my flower and just around here to finish off my card. And then the other one, I've arranged it slightly differently. So I've got the flower in the top because the swag goes in a different direction. And then the sentiment on this one, I've used one of the cut and foil and embossed dies from last year's Christmas collection, which was the Naughty or Nice collection, to add my sentiment. But of course I could use a sentiment from the sentiment pack, or use a die cut sentiment or a stamped sentiment there as an alternative. So there are my two cards, and I hope it helped to see how I'd actually put them together, building up the layers. And as I say, you can make them flat for posting if you wish, but I like to make my cards with dimension. Here in the UK, we're only a small country, so if we're giving a special card, quite often we're giving it in person, so we don't need to worry about being able to fit things in envelopes. So it's up to you, with or without the foam pads, but I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you for watching.